Okay, so recording started.
So welcome back to TMVTV after a little break. Hopefully now me and Hamda will be doing a regular segment, the two of us, upcoming reflecting TMV's positions on what's happening in the UK, government's policies, and really trying to understand what Labour's plan is for this country going forward. Recently, we've seen the Labour Party giving out a £2 billion contract to Elbit Systems, who were famously, attacked and targeted by Palestine Action. What do you think about this and its like reflections on the government's stance on Palestine at a time where some of their rhetoric seems to be changing?
I think it's just really empty words, to be fair, and actions really do speak louder than anything, especially with this particular contract. And we know if they do go ahead with this contract, it will just be another step of the government ensuring and allowing the Israeli state to sort of train police, train our military, and the violence that entails to our civilians on the ground. It's just, for me, it's just like a slap in the face. It's everything that Labour should be standing against, but clearly is standing for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we've seen is David Lammy, Owen Jones, quite a good tweet the other day, actually saying after there was an attack by the Israelis, another attack on yet another hospital. Owen Jones put out a tweet saying, "Yeah, and now David Lammy will come out and say we're devastated by X, Y, and Z." And he was right. Like 20 minutes later, David Lammy did do that, but David Lammy should be in court answering for the crimes of supporting apartheid, supporting genocide, because no amount of words can make up for the fact that you're materially supporting the active ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Like the best way to describe what the British government are doing is they are literally standing next to someone who is pummeling a man in the face, and while saying stop, they're providing them a shotgun. Right? That's literally what
Yeah.
they're doing. They stop,
It's
and then
like
they're getting
saying,
them.
we have no power to stop them, yet they have every power and every mechanism to do so, and they're refusing to do it. Like I think they believe that the British citizens are stupid, and they have no way of sort of being challenged, because there are a lot of organizations and there are a lot of individuals who can rightfully take them to court, because they don't have immunity, and they shouldn't, just because they're in power. It doesn't mean that they're above the law, which clearly is what they think.
And also, what kind of signal does it send to our armed forces and to the people in Britain that we're giving our training contracts to a business which, let's be frank, is a front for which is a business which is primarily aimed at supporting the apartheid state of Israel, giving them the contract to train our British forces of the same military firm that is used, these bombs are used to kill innocent Palestinians every day, whose tactical objective is to, murder and maim Palestinians every day. That we're telling our armed forces, yeah, these are the people that can train you. What kind of armed forces do we want? Do we not want armed forces that have some like basic sense of morality? I mean, considering the historic record of the British Army in recent years and the kind of missions that the government has sent them on, maybe this is the direction that the British government wants us to go in, sending our, innocent men and women from Britain to go and die for no purpose, for some purpose of some empire that doesn't serve them, doesn't serve us, doesn't serve the British people, and they're just going to do that to serve what the interests of big business, of America, of being America's laptop. What is the purpose of this spending and this training? And that's like a fundamental question that we've got to ask.
Yeah, I mean, it serves no purpose to me. I mean, our British armed forces deserve better than that, to be trained and to be on the, I guess you can say, mercy of an institution that actually has no care for innocence at all. I don't think that's what any of our members of the armed forces signed up for, is to kill innocents, to kill civilians, is to really protect the British people. And the British public, rightfully so, have said time and time again for the last 2 years that they do not stand for war. They do not stand for the killing and maiming of Palestinians. So I don't know. I actually don't know. I would love to see our armed forces stand up against this particular contract and really come out and say, we don't want to do this. We don't want to take these contracts. We don't want to be being trained by these individuals. Like, this is not who we are, and this is no order that we want to take.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have optimism that they will do this. Unfortunately, not. You know,
Now, but it would be
British,
nice to see.
they spent months under the RAF flying spy planes over Gaza, being absolutely complicit in the war crimes. And
Mm,
you know, the people who fly these fly planes, but most importantly, the people who give the orders, David Lammy, Keir Starmer. Before them, you know, we haven't forgot about Rishi Sunak and um, whoever the Tory ministers were at the time. I have actually forgotten who
yeah.
that was. But you know, we won't forget that they also played a role in this. Actually, it was David Cameron. We cannot forget David Cameron's role, right?
Mm,
David Cameron came in, and basically they have played a big role in not only destroying the reputation of Britain abroad, making this country less safe, um, but also recklessly, you know, destroying uh, the fabric, the moral fabric of the world, right? Recklessly, in for no reason, for no thing. They have absolutely shattered any sense of international order, and they have allowed one rogue state to basically rewrite the law on international law and murder hundreds of thousands by now, easily hundreds of thousands, all in the name of their, ethnic supremacist um, state vision. And as we reflect on that, you know, there's a thing that I always like to talk to people when they talk to me about asylum seekers, right? This is like a topic that's spread up in the press recently. And it's a very simple quote, right? The government loves demonizing refugees, but loves creating them at the same time. All right.
yeah.
So you see, we who are the majority of people who come as refugees to this country, right? We've got people from Afghanistan. We've got people from Somalia. We've got people from now would be from Gaza. People who historically who came from Syria in recent years. What do they all have in common, right? They all have one thing in common, and the one thing in common is that they either were members of the British Empire or they were invaded or bombed uh, by Britain and its allies, right? And then we stand there and say, "Oh my God, how dare you become refugees?" But if we were the people on the other end of that bombing, on the other end of that bombardment, on the other end of that torture that the British state has put other nations through, then we also would come seeking help and seeking refuge. Um, but yet the British state seems intent on creating more refugees. Again, for what purpose? I do not understand. Um, and you know, but it's also using those refugees to distract from the fact that they've mismanaged our economy and used it to serve the top 1% and not ordinary people.
I mean, you've literally hit the nail on the head. It's the distraction tool. Um, you see it up and down, like the country in terms of MPs and ministers. But I think I'm back. There we go. But it's like to fearmonger and use so-called using swayed or sort of really emotive language when it comes to humans fleeing war, humans fleeing uh, persecution, innocents wanting a better life. And it's something, I guess, very obscure and not understandable to, I guess you can say, many individuals who are very likely racist, who don't like black and brown people, who don't understand the historical implications of the British Empire, and want to go back to an Anglican way of thinking or an Anglican way of living, which technically doesn't exist because England by proxy is an immigrant nation, and so is every country. So I think the idea of immigrants being scapegoated is literally barbaric because they live such, you can say, really atrocious way of living, having no money to live on, being hounded at, being sort of face racist attacks, like the depression, the way the living conditions, everything is just so atrocious. It's just hard to think that there's not empathy, because I don't even think empathy is something that the far right even has. But I don't know. It's just sad to see that Britain can stoop this low just because the government, this current government, and all previous governments, prime ministers, etc., have mismanaged the economy and mismanaged the way that this country is run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, look, there is something to say that, slight pushback. I do think that there is such thing as, British culture. And but it's a culture that's enhanced by immigrants. But Britain has some like amazing cultural things going for it.
Mhm,
British manners are absolutely amazing, right? Like British people are very, very charming people by nature, very polite people, love saying sorry for no reason.
mhm.
All of this is part of British culture, talking about the weather all the time because the weather can't make up its mind whether it's going to be hot,
Yeah,
cold,
that
or
there are
rainy.
definitely British values that we all have.
And
And I think
this is
that's something that
yeah,
I guess you can say the far right love to put in our faces. But at the end of the day, whatever color you are, we are all British, and we all have
exactly.
British values, and we all abide by those British values. And I feel like sometimes those that British sensibility that we all should have tends to get thrown out of the window. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, like there you have way the British white working class has way more in common. The British white working class from working class, like southern or northern cities will have way more in common than with a British Pakistani in Birmingham or a British Caribbean in some part of London than they will have with the millionaire and billionaire class who are stoking these wars, right? Because
Mhm,
they want to divide and rule. They want us to think that, oh, I'm struggling, I'm poor because poor Abdullah who's just come off the boat is taking my job or is spending my money on boats, rather than the fact that we have multi-billion pound corporations sucking money out of our economy, not paying people living wages um, in an attempt to maintain control um, of our country, which they've captured. And I think that's fundamentally what we've got to, push back on and try and understand, like, how can we as Muslims, as maybe people who are on the left, or just as people with values really in society, how can we push back and ensure that these refugees are protected, and also help shift the narrative back onto the truth, right, which is public services have been dismantled. um you know uh, Industries which were national property have been privatized, sucking money away from those industries into private pockets. The water company being probably the most obvious and egregious example of this.
mhm.
And there's been no funding into our national services, whether it be healthcare, education, etc., for decades now.
I mean, definitely, you've said it right there. It's like it's the root cause. It's everything that we're all worried about, um, and all that worry about the NHS, about paying bills, living paycheck to paycheck, ensuring our kids go into good schools, ensuring we have good job and economic incomes, ensuring that our loved ones, if they are sick, that they have a healthcare system, that's able to take care of them, and that is able, they're not like, at the mercy of billionaires. So it's those things. It's like all our fears are being used against us, and directed towards each other, whereas we are basically taking our eyes off the prize. Like you said, is the billionaires, is the government, is the big organizations who are saying, oh look, like you all should be fighting for the scraps, not really holding them to account to pay their taxes, making sure that they are paying a living wage, making sure that the high street is in order. Because honestly, I want the high street back. I want good shops. I want a good economy. I won't be able to go to the local chippy and just talk to an individual rather than having to order everything on Amazon and never having an interaction with a human being. It's those little things, and I feel like we tend to miss the ball when we end up fighting each other.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there with the death of the high street. I think it's so symbolic for the slow decaying of this nation, right?
Hmm.
I'm not one who dooms and glooms and believes this nation's falling apart. We still have lots going for us, but more than anything, I think we've lost the sense of community, as not just in this country, all across the country. And as we are losing that, people are looking for answers, looking, okay, why is my life getting worse? And rather than introspecting and thinking about how Amazon has sucked up the entire high street onto a platform. And look, I'm very guilty of this, right? I have like 3 Amazon parcels downstairs. I can't
Yeah, it's that
claim.
it's that easy satisfaction. It's that instant
Yeah,
gratification
but
of I want
yeah,
this now and I'll get it.
yeah, absolutely. But we have to reflect on these things and think seriously about how we're going to push back and challenge them, whilst also serving our society, our people, this country, people abroad who are suffering because of the consequences of British foreign policy, etc. And very recently we've seen a new party emerging. I guess your party, whether we call your party
I mean,
People's
have you seen,
Party,
have you
your
seen
party.
they're asking for names, or they're
Yeah, but
calling for name
my shout is
suggestions?
People's Party sounds the nicest. Workers' Party is already taken,
It
so I
is.
think the People's Party is by
Yeah,
far
but
the
then you have
best.
to define who the people are.
It's a good question,
It's
but
very
the
vague.
people, yeah, the People's Party is a lot better than your party. I think we can, in
Yeah.
my head, as a serious suggestion. I think the People's Party or the Left Party. Now, the problem, obviously, with the Left Party is it just defines itself as the left. What the left is, what kind of left. Also excludes people who are apolitical, etc. Saying that it has very strong roots in other nations like Germany, etc., where the Left Party do very well. So, and they call the Left Party openly declare that. So, these are all questions that we've got to answer and think about. But regardless of really the name, right? Branding is obviously important. It's not the be all and end all. What would you like to see as kind of see this new party look like uh, as we go forward?
If I really wanted to aim big, I'd want it to be principled. I want to have a clear understanding of what they stand for, um, not having that in-party fighting. Because Labour right now, you don't really know what they stand for. Um, it's very wishy-washy. It's not very tangible. They're just basically the Tories dressed in red. And I don't want another party for that, because we have Farage's party, we have all these various parties. But the thing is, not one of them shows clear leadership and has a clear direction and a clear understanding or having their hand on the pulse of the British public, like really truly knowing what it is affecting people on the ground. Sometimes what happens is when people go into power, they tend to forget the everyday person that's voting for them and the problems that they have, because they're stuck in the ivory towers debating about, I don't know what, God knows what minuscule things that they think we care about. And I want that focus to be like, I want the new party to be very principled and very focused, and very like they're claiming to be for the people. And in order to be for the people, you need to be made up by the people and need to know what the people want. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, look, number one, they're in their ivory towers debating random legislation, not because they don't know what ordinary people care about. They have access to every opinion poll out there. The reason is because they want to find a way to distract us again from the
Mm,
core issues. But look, a new party in my head has to have a core base of maybe 3 to 5 policy areas. Number one, obviously, and this is the most vital thing, they have to focus on challenging inequality. Right, there is no future in this country or in many parts of the Western world if we do not challenge this rising levels of inequality. I mean, look, I'm originally from India. You're originally from Somalia. Go and ask people there. Right, there's only the super rich and then there's the poor. There is nothing in the middle. Our country is going towards that place very, very quickly. And in the next 150 to 100 years, we could literally live in the same kind of situation where we have the super wealthy and the poor with no middle class or a very tiny middle class, but no like social security net available for them. Right. So those are that's probably the top one. The second thing, and equally as important, is an ethical foreign policy. Right. We can't continue to being America's lapdog and blowing up every other country at the behest of America or Israel or any other foreign policy. We need an independent foreign policy which puts ethics first. Right. Number three, really important. We need a proper climate policy. One that understands that. Of course, we've got to serve the needs of this nation, and we need to aggressively invest in renewable energy, but also addresses the fact that we are on the prefaces of making a lot of the world refugees again by putting their countries underwater, solving the housing crisis. Right, this is probably for me, for a selfish level, the most important thing. For young people, affording a house is becoming more and more difficult. That has to be challenged and fixed. And I think after that, um, party of principle. All right, that should be like the kind of overarching theme. And if they can find 4 or 5 of these areas where they can just say, okay, these are core principles. We're not outside of that. We're free to debate, right? Whether we believe in keeping first past the post or moving to a proportional system, up for debate. Do you want to keep the House of Lords? Do you want to abolish the House of Lords? Debate. Want a republic? Do you want to get rid of the monarchy? Let's have a debate. Let's have a discussion. I'm all for that. But on these core principles, let's make sure that as a party, as a movement, we're 100% agreed that these are our core principles. This is how we want to achieve them. And outside of that, let's have a healthy debate. Let's
yeah.
actually bring in politics really, and not all pretend that we're part of some kind of cult where we have to obey the leader. But a party where people can express internal differences and carry on fighting for a better country for everyone.
I mean, those are good, I guess you can say, policies. For me, I would definitely want NHS and social care, um, especially with the fact that we have an aging population and we don't have enough carers, or carers who are underpaid or undertrained, like overworked, everything that you can think of. And we have an NHS that is meaning to do well, but we have doctors who are not paid. We have consultants who, again, like low staff everywhere, crumbling hospitals, low morale. And yeah, it's going to take decades to fix, and it's going to take a lot of money. But I feel like if we had a very long-term way of thinking about all these issues, like you said, in terms of only thinking about the core issues and discussing the core issues and everything else is up for debate, I think that would be a good party to support. But let's see what they come up with.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what they come up with. We're going to be waiting to hear back, eagerly, eagerly waiting to hear back, I guess. And, see what they come up with, really. Obviously, we're not part of this new party formation. But we want to know
No.
what they they are thinking, and like every other party, we will scrutinize them. We will look at their records. We will look at their policies, and we will judge each candidate on a case by case basis, like always. But I do have high hopes. I do have high hopes, and but the most important thing for this party to succeed is not really anything we've discussed. I think the number one issue is discipline, right? Leaks
Mhm.
coming out in Sky News and the Telegraph, Twitter threads. Um, this is unacceptable. This has to simply stop. But
Yeah.
do I believe that there is a vision for a better future in this party? Absolutely. How they structure it, centralization, be having a more federalized system of, local power, also an interesting debate to have. But ultimately, discipline will be the key for the future of success of the left in this country. And we should take a lot of inspiration from the success of the left in France in 2024. We can learn a lot of lessons from them and carry on building towards a stronger future for this whole country.
Mm. Yeah, most definitely. Inshallah. We shall see. We shall wait with bated breath.
Inshallah. Well, let's wrap up there. I'm really keen to get feedback from the audience, from fans of the Muslim vote, from people who follow us, etc. And ask us, tell us what you want us to discuss, etc. We have the contact form on our website. You can email me at admin@themuslimvote.co.uk, or just reach out to us and tell us what you'd like to discuss. Give us your feedback, and jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
See you guys next time on TMV Live.